Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Pitchlight Chronicles, where fans become family. I'm Uncle Taz. I am here with Donald and Rubino. And the Yankees have turned themselves into an Abbott and Costello skit that they did not give Glaber the qualifying offer, because we also did not see that they did not pick up the option for Rizzo. Talked about that. So now it turns into who's on first, what's on second, and I don't know who the hell's on third. So it really is going to be one of these off seasons where are they going to go internally? Are they going to go strictly to the outside and try to build this through the free agent market, the trade market with some of the players that should have gotten a shot but have not? Are they just going to move on from these guys? I.e. Peraza is a big question mark. What are they going to do with Vivas down there? You know, some of these prospects that we've been waiting for, or players we've been waiting to get called up. But does Ben Rice play first? Does Jazz go back to second and they go into the free agent market third base? Would this third base open up a spot for, Arias? There's a lot of questions that can come into play here that are going to be the defining factor of the success of the offseason, because they have to have more fundamentally sound players in their infield. It doesn't matter the star power. It doesn't matter. It could be. It's going to come down. I really think it's going to be one of these where they have to make sure that they can field the position that they're best comfortable in. And this is not to discredit what Jazz did at third base. He played a great third base for somebody who never did it before. But if he was able to do that at third, imagine the efficiency if he was at second base. So these are going to be the questions we're going to try to dissect today on the show. Shout out to everybody that is going on in the chat. I'm going to throw it around to Rob and Donald. Bro, glad to see you in the chat. So everybody did send their best wishes. We talked about that yesterday. So
happy to see you back in action, my guy. Yeah. Really, really happy to see that. I hope you're doing well, brother.
So Donald, when it comes to the infield, really, what do you think the goal is for the Yankees? Like, what do you want to see them do as far as the infield alignment? Like with first, second, third, shortstop is locked in. Lopez or shortstop. I don't think that there's any chance of that changing at this point. So, but the other three positions around him are wide open right now. What do you see happening?
I think Jazz moves to second. I think that would be his best position. Jazz Chisholm at second base. I'm good with that. Volpe short. They need to focus on the corner spots. So my thinking and rationale would be, let's go outside the organization, get a first baseman. Someone that can give you 770, 800 OPS. Someone that can drive and runs, preferably from the left side, and someone that's got a good glove. I want an above average glove defensively. It's absolutely vital. So we need all those things. And I think the best way to do that would be to go outside the organization. We don't really have a natural first baseman. I like Rumfeld. I think Rumfield's had a very good year in AAA. If you look at his numbers, they're very, very good. Rice is good, but he's still learning the position, and he's a natural catcher. So I'm not sure if I'm ready to give those guys the job full time. So then, for me, then you could go internally for third base. You could have Peraza play third base. There's Oswaldo Cabrera. There's options there. I don't think Oswaldo Cabrera should play every day. He's very much best as a utility guy, someone that can roam around the infield. But you're asking what my goal is for the infield. It's having the guys in their best positions. That is absolutely imperative. Having the guys in their best positions, put them in the best position to succeed, and for the love of God, fix what these fundamental issues are. Fix them. coach them, work with them. But for the love of God, hold them to some account. But please get them in their best positions. I want a third baseman playing third. I want a first baseman first playing first. Uh, and then you will start to see an improvement because that was what really held the Yankees back this year. The infield defense was a disgrace, and the whole organization should be ashamed of themselves for the way the infield performed. It was horrific.
Yep. Rob, your take.
Oh, everything he just said. We
Yeah.
need everyone at their right positions. Chisholm moving back to second makes the most sense. And Peraza would be able to play third. I think pretty easily he can take that role if they want to stay inside the organization at third. But they should go outside to get a first baseman. I do really like T.J. Rumfield. He was my choice over Ben Rice to get called up, but I just don't know how much the Yankees like him. They still have to protect him on the 40 man, so he could be a trade candidate because he's a Rule 5 guy. Um, but yet this is an opportunity for them to start fresh with the infield. They already have a shortstop playing shortstop. They can have a guy that can play everywhere at third with Peraza. They can have Jazz at his best position. So, and I agree with Damien. They have to fix what's being taught in the minors before we can worry about the major leagues. But if you start getting guys that actually know how to play the position to play the position you need, then you're not going to really have too many issues. Like if they go and get a Christian Walker, let's say, to play first base, we're not going to say, oh, he's got to go learn how to play first. No, he's already arguably the best defensive first baseman in the sport, so you won't have to worry too much there. If Jazz is playing second where you know he's comfortable, we won't have to worry about too much there. Although he did play pretty well at third, so it wouldn't be the worst idea if they kept him there, but I'd prefer him at second. And then you fix a lot of these issues. I don't think the outfield's going to change too much outside of hopefully Soto's going to stay in right field, and then you probably have Dominguez play left. But other than that, you really have to fix this infield, and it could just take one simple signing or trade and then go from within with the other position. But Donald's right. The corners have to be the point of emphasis because wherever, if you have Peraza play third, Jazz can play second or vice versa, and then it's just about finding a first baseman. So that's really it. You got to find someone to play first. I don't want Rizzo back. I don't trust Ben Rice just yet. I don't know if they trust these prospects we have in the system. So this is your chance to finally give Peraza an actual run, or maybe they trust Vivas more. And all you have to do is go get a first baseman.
Can Vivas play third?
He can. They actually had him play third base in the Futures game, not the Futures game, the breakout game last spring, and he's played there a little bit during the season in AAA. But I think he's better off as a second baseman. But the
Yeah.
Yankees see him potentially playing third. That's something that they can
Another
definitely
thing,
look to do.
Cashman actually, it's quite interesting that Cashman actually pinpointed his name above all others. Caleb Durbin, he was talking about as a possibility at second base. Rob, what would you say about him playing second? Would that mean that Jazz Chisholm plays third?
Probably. I wanted Durbin to make the team out of the spring this past season. I
Yeah.
thought he was really good, but then ended up getting hurt. But the guy just hits. He doesn't strike out. He gets on base. He can run. He's a tiny little fuck, but he can run,
Tiny
and
little fuck.
he can. He's just a hitter. I like the guy so much. I think he's gonna have a role. I just don't know exactly where because they played him in the outfield a lot this year. They have him all over the place, so they can stick him at second. They can stick him at third. They can put him as a utility guy, but we already have Cabrera for that and Birdie. Yeah, he hits and he steals bases. That's actually prototypical for what we need because we might need a leadoff hitter. And if everything goes right for him, and he's killing it right now in the fall league, so he could
You're
have
right.
the inside track to play second or third, wherever they see him as the best fit.
Yeah, I mean, as you were saying that, um, the MLB.com actually has an article about what Caleb Durbin's doing in the Arizona Fall League. The start of the article says the Arizona Fall League has never seen a base stealer like Caleb Durbin. He's up to 22 stolen bases in just 18 games,
That's a good
which puts
indicator.
the sole position of second place on the league's all-time single season stolen base list. And he's actually the person that set the mark is himself. So he's first and second. So yeah, Durbin looks like he could be a good option. and as Rob couldn't put it better.
No, Durbin, I think, is definitely somebody that's going to get a legitimate look. I don't think it's going to be one of those where they skirt over. They give him a little bit of spotlight to appease the fans or Durbin himself. I think because Cash, when especially when you hear the way Cashman was talking about him, I think that's the guy that they're really going to spotlight and push forward. And he's been doing everything like you guys were just talking about with the fall league. That was something that we really should have emphasized more with some of the guys on our roster in the previous, in 2024 was, aggressiveness with the base stealing. They kind of took that away from Volpe. They didn't let him run that much. Uh, Jazz could have been a better threat on the bases. And so if they're gonna, you want to bring in speed and base running into it, then Durbin would definitely fit the bill in the mold of what the Yankees need. Because you also need somebody. It's not just about the stolen bases; it's also about the speed on the bases, being able to stretch that single to a double to get yourselves right into scoring position. It just felt there were a lot of times during the season where it felt like they were very comfortable as a station-to-station team because they didn't want to risk them running into outs with big bats coming up in the order.
Ironically, they did that anyway, which is the greatest irony of the whole thing. They kept running
Yeah,
in out anyway.
and Brian Cashman seems to think that we're one of the best base running teams in the sport, but
Oh, yeah.
this is a chance for Cashman to
As you watch
actually.
it.
Yeah, this is a chance for Cashman. If Durbin does make the team, they're going to protect him, Jonathan. They absolutely will. This is a chance for him to stroke his ego a little bit more because they got him for, who was it, Litke from the Braves when they traded Lucas Litke. So this is a chance for Brian Cashman to be like, I gave away an aging throwaway arm and I got this future second baseman or third baseman for nothing, basically. This guy's a rising star because, I don't want to say star, but he's a rising prospect because he came out of nowhere last year in the spring. He had a really good spring. And he had a great season in the minors despite the injuries. So he's got, to me, he's the perfect choice if they want to go from within because he brings all those things to the table, as does Peraza. But I think Ken brings up a really good point about Peraza. At this point, you might just try to package him in a trade with something else to maybe get a first baseman. I don't know if they go money wise for Christian Walker. That's why I like Nathaniel Lowe from Texas. So maybe they put him in a trade just involve him in some sort of trade. I don't know what they get for Peraza, but I just don't know if his time here, if his time's probably up with the Yankees because they just don't trust him.
Yeah.
Here's a quick look at Caleb Durbin's numbers. In Scranton, he had 10 homers, 60 ribbies, 29 stolen bases, 47 walks, 37 strikeouts. That guy does not strike out. 287 batting average. Thank you very much. Sign me up for that. And an 867 OPS and a 470 slug. That's the kind of numbers that you're looking for. Now, how that translates to the majors, I don't know, but it's a very good sign if you've got an 867 OPS in the minors, and you're stealing that kind of amount of bags. You should be able to steal bags at the major league level. What's also great is he doesn't strike out. That's probably someone that you want to focus on because again, the Yankees they struck out a lot against the Dodgers. If you look at their swing and miss metrics, horrific. The Dodgers just struck them right out of the series in many ways. So, plus Durbin can play third base. He actually can play basically all around the infield. He can play second, short, third. So if you share time at third between him and Peraza, then we might be in good shape. And then you got Birdie there as well. I think the Yankees could fill that internally. But if they do that, that means that they really need to focus on a bat at first, plus a glove. But the bat needs to be really good because Brian Cashman has not prioritized a bat at first base in I can't remember how long. It's been a long time.
Now
Uh,
let's.
I know Anthony Rizzo, but he's been declining.
Yeah,
But they really need to get an absolute bat, someone that can drive in runs, someone that can support Stanton, Soto, and Judge in the middle of the order. It's absolutely imperative.
yeah. I think that's a good transition into the discussion on first base. Because do you let Ben Rice continue to develop at um, first base, or do you go the free agent market? And when you get to the free agent market, there's two. I think there's two big candidates, which would be Christian Walker and also Pete Alonso. Now, Christian Walker already has the qualifying offer attached to him. Does that, to focus on Walker first? How does the qualifying offer affect the Yankees pursuing him, or is the depth in the organization enough where giving up that pick won't come back and bite them in the ass?
Well, the qualifying offer kind of scared them away from a couple of guys this past offseason. So I don't know. Do you give up a pick plus a pretty big contract for a guy over the age of 30 and Christian Walker? I like Christian Walker a lot, but I just don't know if the Yankees. I'm assuming we're getting Soto back in all this. So if we have Soto back, are they going to pay for another premium price for a first baseman when they can probably go the cheaper route and make a trade for a guy like Lowe? Or there's all those rumblings about Murakami. If he is posted, he's going to cost you nothing. It's a signing bonus type of move. It's not going to be a Yamamoto type of deal. So I'm thinking that's the case. I'm hoping that's the case. So there are options out there, but I think the most likely scenario, assuming Soto's back, is that they go for in the trade route. But if they don't get Soto, then you can go splurge on a Pete Alonso or Christian Walker. Either one of those two are going to give you a great bat, but Walker's obviously the better defensive first baseman. So I think it's just what the Yankees prefer there. Cashman already talked about Alonso, so we know that they're linked in some capacity as a potential plan B. But if Soto's not back, then you got to go spend it first, and you can use from within for third base. But either way, you should go outside of the organization for first base.
What do you think of Norman Soto here? What do you guys think of Jazz at third, Peraza short, Volpe second?
Not yet. I don't think they're going to move Volpe yet. He's Gold Glove last year. He was a Gold Glove candidate again this year. His defense was actually better. I don't think you move him until you find out about Arias. Arias is like the most likely successor to him at shortstop. If they trusted Peraza there, they would have put him there.
Which is a shame. Peraza's a better defensive.
He is. He's a much better defensive player.
Yeah, that's not like the question.
Yeah.
I just think the Yankees. I think the organization is very comfortable and very confident in Volpe at short. So that's the player that's why with the monologue I skipped over shortstop because I think that's cemented in.
It is cemented.
That's not gonna change this coming season. There are too many other areas of and who knows, what if Volpe just, he struggles at second. Then what? Then there's egg on the face. So I don't think they want to fix something that's not really an issue.
Right. And again, you don't really need to move him, though, because he has been a good defensive shortstop. Yeah. He's obviously not on the level of what Peraza would probably be, but it's not like he's been detrimental to the team. This entire infield was bad. Let's just call it what it is. But he was the best infielder. So I don't want to make it seem like, he wasn't a negative defender. He was a plus defender at shortstop. It was actually his best attribute this year because it wasn't his hitting. It certainly wasn't his bat. It was his glove. So it's more his arm. His range is fine. It's his arm. If he can work on that arm strength a little bit, he'll be a fine shortstop. I have no issue with him at short. It's not like we gotta get a new shortstop. So moving him to second base would just be to kind of, unless we had like a sure thing coming up, like if Arias was ready right now, then I would move him to second. But nobody's ready yet to take over, and they don't like Peraza clearly because he's been blacklisted basically from the organization. So it's not like they're going to be like all of a sudden, hey, let's put Peraza at shortstop, even though this guy won a Gold Glove. and was a runner-up this past year. They're not going to do that. He's staying at shortstop until they have to move him.
Facts. Jorbit Vivas. I wonder what he's been doing lately. Let's have a look and see what he's been up to so far overall in the minors. Not great, actually. Overall in the minors, just a 225 batting average and a 700 OPS. I'm not sure if you could consider him. Worst numbers all across the board than Durbin. 9 homers, 50 revs. Only on base 34% of the time. 225 batting average, 700 OPS. Struck out, let's see, 76 times, only walked 63. So struck out more than he walked. Yeah, not good. Not good numbers for our man, Jorbit. Maybe he's not quite ready, actually.
Yeah, I want to bring up this other comment from It's Over. Thanks for joining the chat. He's like, what about Arenado with third, Jazz at second, first base Walker, plan B if Soto signs somewhere? Arenado, I think, is kind of that's I think that ship has sailed. 5 years ago, maybe. Trying to grab the last year or two in his prime, but I think Arenado is not a fit for where this club needs to go. I don't know what you guys think about Arenado joining the club.
Nah, I don't. I think it's probably past. I mean, if they can get him for nothing in terms of prospects, it wouldn't be the worst idea. He's still a good player, but is he what he once was? Probably not. But again, that's a contingency plan in case Soto does go. Um, again, you're gonna add veteran bats, but do the Yankees need to be getting older? Because if you let
No.
Soto walk, who's 26, and you're getting a couple of guys who are over the age of 30, you're getting an older team.
Right.
And it's already one of the older rosters in the sport. So I don't know if that necessarily helps us in terms of athleticism and getting back to the World Series.
Yep.
Go
ahead, Donald.
No, that's a good point. I agree with that.
Yeah, I think that I don't think third base is the biggest. I think of the three open positions, that could be tweaked around a little bit. I think third base is the least of the worry, because we already saw, we have Cabrera who could play a legitimate third, not great but legitimate. Jazz showed that he can, pretty much play anywhere. But I'd rather him in his natural position at second. But if they keep him at third and he improves from what he was already able to do, I have no issue if they keep him at third and try to go after a second baseman. But I think I think the priority has to be first base. Is it Murakami where you're not going to have to pay the big international free agent shopping spree, spending spree? You can get him, like Rob said, fairly cheap. A couple of people in the chat saying, low risk, high reward on him. The qualifying offers, I think, really are starting. I think the qualifying offer needs to go. I don't like the qualifying offer. I think teams throw them on players as a deterrent to go after their guy. Unless you're in that, Juan Soto, qualifying, they don't care about the international money either. They want Soto. But I think they try to use that I think they use it as a deterrent, where a team might be like, well, I don't want to lose money in the free agent draft, in the international draft. I don't want to lose funds from that. The draft pick, it's a pain in the ass because a lot of fans feel different about it. Some fans don't mind losing. I'm not worried about a draft pick. I feel our charts are deep enough.
Well, most organizations do, and frankly, that's why a lot of these teams make that decision. But in that case, it's interesting that Damien says, I can't believe that the Yankees didn't give Torres a qualifying offer.
because he would have
Actually, you
taken
can't
it.
because his qualifying offer was like what, 21 million dollars.
21.5 is this year's. Oh, every player for a qualifying offer is the same money.
Right. So with that in mind, if you look at his numbers, cold heart of hearts, it wasn't worth $21 million.
Yeah.
His numbers in the regular season was not worth that. You can get it considerably cheaper. His defensive metrics, I think he was -11 defensive runs saved. And then when you combine that with, I think it was like minus. I think his metrics were like -4 on the base pass. He's one of the worst base runners in the majors. And then you also combine that with the fact that his bat throughout the regular season was verging on below league average. You're not going to offer that $21 million. Now, sentimentally, if you look at his postseason, you're like, Jesus, that guy absolutely carried this team at the top of the order to where it needed to go. And so, absolutely respect to Gleyber Torres for that. He was phenomenal in the leadoff spot. And that might be somewhere where he can really make a living for himself in the future. But it'll be for another team. Because if the Yankees want to get Juan Soto, they're not going to add Soto's $50 million base. It's probably going to be more than that. Plus another $21 million to Gleyber Torres. It's not going to happen. You just have to look at it. What would you prefer? Do you want Juan Soto or do you want Gleyber Torres? Because we're not going to get both.
No, obviously, it's freaking Juan Soto, and no, it would have been easy to throw the qualifying offer on Torres, just so somebody else took him. You get the international money, the draft pick, but Torres has stated that his dream was to stay on this team for the rest of his career. So if you give him that qualifying offer, he's going to jump all over it. This was the only way the Yankees are going to move on from him, was to not give it to him. So I don't fault the Yankees at all. I know a lot of people were a little bothered by it. They felt it was disrespectful, for what he did, put into the organization. But
the thing is, Torres would have taken that, bro, because he's not guaranteed to get a contract which is actually as good as 21.5 per year. We don't know yet how it's gonna look, but there's a very good chance that he takes that. And if he takes that, then the Yankees are lumbered.
The thing with Torres is I'm still going to beat this drum. They should have traded him when they had the chance.
Yeah,
because now they're going to get nothing for him. They could have gotten a lot for him actually 2 years ago. So they missed their opportunity to move him. And I know he was a huge part of our run in this postseason, and he was great in the second half. But the fact that we're not going to get anything for him, because I'm guessing he's gone, and we didn't even give him a qualifying offer, so we won't get a pick. The time to trade him was 2 years ago. Even this past offseason, they could have done it, but they held on to him. That's the thing. I'm not surprised at all by this, because he would have took the offer. And he absolutely would take $21 million for another year to try to get better. He would have probably gotten a bigger contract next year, but the Yankees couldn't take that risk, because then you're limiting yourself to what you can give to Juan Soto, especially with Cole's contract staying exactly the same. There's no extension or potential rework deal happening, apparently, according to Cashman. So, yeah, exactly. He would get a $6 million difference. And was he that much better this year compared to last? Probably not. So the opportunity to trade him obviously went out the window last deadline or last off season, and now you're going to get nothing for him. And I like Gleyber. I always like Gleyber. I'm going to wish him the best wherever he goes. Someone's going to give him a good contract. It's just not going to be – I don't think he'll get $21 million. He'll probably settle for maybe like 18 or something like that, but he's going to get a good payday. Just not from the Yankees.
I'm delighted that he left on a high. He's going to always give us very good memories, I think, because he gave us a hell of a playoffs. So, salute to him, man. He really gave us one hell of a playoffs. and he was vital at the top of the order. So, but let's be honest here. The Yankees missed the boat on that. You don't want to let talent walk out the building for nothing.
Yeah.
That should be like what GMs are absolutely afraid of. You don't want that to happen, but this is exactly what's happened, and you just have to deal with it. It's not ideal. Good player, good dude, and again, I'm sorry. I'm gonna blame the organization on this again. I really think that the Yankees screwed up with Gleyber Torres because Gleyber Torres had all the potential to be a superstar. He had all the skill set to be a superstar. Now it's partly on him because of what's in here. He just didn't have the will and the desire to make himself a superstar. He pushed through the mental issues where if things aren't going so well, say on defense, not to bring it with you on the up to the plate, but that's just kind of what he did. But the thing is, the Yankees could have fixed that issue with a little bit of management, a little bit of toughness, give him a bit of tough love, push him that little bit more, and I think you would have seen a more consistent Glaber. And the Yankees really missed the boat on that because Glaber is someone that can hit to all fields. He's at his best, spraying the ball all over the ballpark, and that's someone you want to keep. He's at the right age. He wasn't a horrible second baseman. It was actually a good second baseman if he could stay focused. Now, obviously, I'm not letting him off for the fact that he wasn't focused, but again, that's on the Yankees. If they didn't have Barney the Friendly Dinosaur, if they had someone that just gave him a little bit of a push, because what was the one thing that happened in the entire time? When Aaron Boone finally held Gleyber Torres to account, what happened? Gleyber Torres played his ass off.
Yep.
So you start to think, wow, maybe had they done this a couple of years ago, maybe these laziness issues would have been snapped out of him, and then you would have gotten the Gleyber Torres, which he threatened all throughout his time as a Yankee to be the superstar that he had all the capabilities to be. It wasn't a talent issue with Gleyber. It was a mental issue. Some people just need a little bit more of a kick up the butt than others. And a good manager can figure it out. Which ones to give tough love to, which ones to put an arm around with, which ones to go for a coffee with, blah, blah, blah. He was one of those dudes that you need to sometimes give him a little bit of a kick up the ass. And I think the Yankees were afraid of doing that. And we missed the boat on this guy because this guy should have been better than he ended up being. That's my opinion. I don't know if you guys agree.
No, I think you're spot on to it. There's nothing to add to that. He had his chance, he had his miscues, but the miscues outweighed the positive. And that's not somebody you want to hold on to going forward when you're trying to stay in a competitive situation for a World Series. And it's nothing to take away what he was able to, like his second half numbers, his postseason numbers are very respectful and appreciated. But it's just time to move forward. Let it go.
He should have been better than he was. He was a good player. I'm not going to make it seem like he was a terrible player or anything, but he should have been better than he was.
Yep.
They moved him to shortstop when they didn't really need to, and that derailed him for a couple of years. And then he played a lot better when they moved him back. And for 2 seasons up until this year, he was probably our second best player behind Aaron Judge. So whatever happened this year in the first half, I don't know if he was just thinking too much about I got to get better in order to get a payday or to try to stay here or what. Am I going to get traded? They didn't do him any favors by having him in trade rumors for 3 straight years, basically. That certainly doesn't help. And again, I blame the organization for not moving him when they had the chance to. Had they done it 2 years ago when they could have made that move, none of this is an issue right now. But in terms of where he'll go, I think FJ's spot on. Seattle's going to look for a second baseman. The Royals can use a bat. and Milwaukee's going to potentially need to replace Adames. So even though he's a shortstop, he's got suitors. There's a lot of teams that can use him, which is a good thing for him. And Toronto's another team that could, like Damian says, so he's gonna find a home for a good contract.
Yeah.
It's just unfortunately the Yankees missed the chance to get something for him. That's really what I'm gonna harp on is he could have been better, sure, but they also could have gotten a pretty decent haul for him when the time was present. That was 2 years ago. They could have had Pablo Lopez, and they didn't do it.
Yep.
Do you want to look at
Yeah.
the agent list per position and see what we can make out of it? I don't think there's a whole host of options. So let's scroll up to first base here. It's really Christian Walker or Pete Alonso are really the only free agent first baseman. The Yankees are not going to pay Pete Alonso plus Juan Soto. It's going to be one or the other, right?
Yeah, I don't see it. I don't see them paying both.
Rob?
No, there's no way they get both.
Yeah.
No, I didn't think so. Christian Walker, he's obviously 34. They're saying MLB.com has him as a 6.8 WAR. He received a qualifying offer. I don't expect that he's going to take it. I think he will test free agency with that. Carlos Santana, the dude's touching 40, 4.5 WAR. He's good, but the fact he's 40, pretty much, I mean, that should count us out with that. I don't want a 40-year-old playing first base. I'm sorry. That's just, I mean, what do you guys think, Carlos Santana?
Nah, he's done. He's put together some good moments throughout a season, but that's the problem with the free agent class. They're all, for an athlete, they're old. It's what are you really getting out of them at this point?
He's just a stopgap until someone like Murakami became available, or if they had a prospect in the wings. But that's a stopgap move because he's 38 now, so
He's 39. Says there,
39. He is coming off of his best season, probably defensively, and he was pretty good offensively, but not the kind of guy you're like, take us to the World Series. So, again, you're looking to add to a team that just made the World Series. We're not trying to get back to the playoffs here. We're trying to get back to the World Series. So,
is there anyone on that list, Rob, that are of interest to you?
Walker and Alonso, that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, Pete Alonso is a great player. I know people don't like him, but he's a damn good bat. If he was here with Juan Soto, would be ideal. But if he's like the plan B, there's far worse you can do than Pete Alonso.
Paul Goldschmidt, I've been saying it for a long time, is actually one of the more underrated offensive players in the league prior to this year. He was actually one of my favorite first basemen in the league. I've always been a big fan of Paul Goldschmidt. The stuff that he's done over there in St. Louis has been freaking remarkable. The guy's a fantastic player. Fortunately, he's 37. I don't know where they got that 4.4 WAR from because we did go through his stats before in the previous podcast, and he's been below average right across the board this year offensively. So I don't think that he's a viable option anymore. If he was 34, then absolutely. Unfortunately, he's 37. So again, I don't think that's viable. What do you guys say?
I don't see him coming.
No.
I don't think they go for again, a guy that's probably past his prime.
He is. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they go that route.
Justin Turner, no. Donovan Solano, he's also 40. Donovan Solano's 37. Wilmer Flores, Joey Gallo, right? And I'm stopping the list there. We got Josh Bell down there at the bottom.
I'm actually looking up Ty France's numbers. I'm curious about him.
He's 30.
He's
not bad.
234 batting average last year. His career batting average, he's got an 8.2 WAR in his career and a 263 batting average.
What's his OPS numbers like?
Oh, I'm pulling them up.
But while you do that, I do have to check out, guys. So I just want to say thank you to everybody here in the chat, and I will be back on Friday. But make sure you keep it up with Donald and Tats because they're going to be keeping this show going. But I do have to pop out.
Salute to you, Rob. Speak to you soon, my brother.
All right, so your question was which stat, Donald, were you asking?
His OPS.
It is not showing on baseball stats. Why not?
I'll get that.
Yeah, try looking that up. It's not coming up on this site for some reason. Baseball Reference doesn't show OPS.
It's a bit weird.
Which is kind of stupid.
I don't believe that he's going to be a viable option anyway.
Yeah, no, it was just he's a name that I'm kind of
13 homers,
curious
51.
about.
Yeah, 13 homers, 51 RBIs is not horrible.
No, but it's also the advanced metrics with the defense. We can look at the batting average all we want. It's really if we can get somebody that's going to be
I've got
average bat, but he's going to be a solid infielder, then it might weigh the option.
Right, I've got Tats. I've got the stats here. 670 OPS and an OBP of 305. That's not viable. Not a viable option. At all. Let's have a look at Josh Bell. I don't mind Josh Bell. I quite like him. I think he's a good player. 249 batting average, 19 home runs, 71 RBIs. That's definitely more in line with what we're looking for. I wouldn't mind Josh Bell as a stopgap, maybe. 720 OPS. It's not awful. 724. Certainly kind of closer to what we're looking for. 19 homers, 71 RBIs. On base percentage isn't as high as what it needs to be, but 249 batting average is above league average. I think Josh Bell is probably closer to a possibility.
See, I would move Josh Bell up the list only because there's no qualifying offer attached to him.
Damien says terrible defensive player. No, if that is, yeah. I mean, look at his overall WAR. 0.2, so he's obviously an abysmal first baseman. I'm just looking at power-wise. If the Yankees were like desperate, and I'm just looking at this first. I'm not saying like I want any of these dudes, but I'm just looking at that first base list. It's not the best.
There's nothing sexy about that list.
No. So let's move on to the rest of the infields. Second base, Gleyber Torres is by far the best second baseman. Whit Merrifield, will always love Whit. Unfortunately, he's 36. Jorge Polanco, Brandon Jury, it's not happening. And Adam Frazier, not happening. Kyle Farmer, not happening. Okay, well, I think we can forget about second base. Shortstop, Willie Adames is excellent. He's by far the best shortstop. But again, we've got a shortstop. Ha-Seong Kim.
Yeah, let's analyze third base.
Yeah. Third base, Alex Bregman.
I just can't.
No. 8.6 WAR. I would take that in a heartbeat.
It's a personal reason. We've gone over a few times, but I don't want to open that canister right now.
No, I get it, but his numbers are
great player. Just I don't like his attitude.
26 homers, 75 RBIs. He's had a very good year, but according to the New York Post, the most recent article says that the Astros are confident in retaining him. So I think more likely than not, he is not going to be an option. After him, you're looking at Gio Urshela. We love you, Gio. Why did Brian Cashman trade you? Brian Anderson, Jace Peterson, Luis Arias, -2 WAR. That's horrendous.
That's terrible.
J.D. Davis. I mean, it's not a good free agent market. It's
No,
like
the
top
market
heavy.
sucks. The
Yeah,
market,
the market sucks this year, and that's it. That's it for the infielders.
yeah, that is a terrible market. Really, the only one it may be. I know we were saying, it's hard to give somebody, once they put the qualifying offer on them. Really, the only one on that list that I would jump through hoops for would be Christian Walker. I think
FJ
that's.
is right.
I think
Baseball Reference lists
everybody on that
Oakland.
list, if that was the only free agent we got for the infield, and we fixed everything else entirely, I'd be okay with that.
I agree, FJ. I don't know where MLB.com were getting such hefty wars for some of these dudes.
Oh,
I don't
they
know what.
inflated.
I don't know why they've inflated it as much as they did, because if you look at Goldschmidt's numbers, they're all completely below average this past year.
Mhm.
So really, if the Yankees are to go outside the organization for first base, it's more likely going to be via trade, because unless they spend big bucks on a Pete Alonso, who apparently Brian Cashman did say yesterday that he's checked in on Pete Alonso.
I'm not. I made the joke, right? I don't know if you remember, way back in the beginning of the season, we were talking. Actually, right when Rizzo got hurt, I'm like, well, if he's not able to play next year, Alonso's going to be on the market. And to kind of dig at some Met fans, I'm like, well, the Yankees could just sign. Yankees can get him next year. And move on from Rizzo. It's actually looking more like a reality at this point that they're going to give him a serious look. Is there, just like any player, there's a little risk in there. His defense has gotten a lot better. He wasn't the best defensive first baseman when he first got called up, but the improvement's been there. The bat is what it is, but it's also that power bat that we need at first base. So that's a factor too, and I think his swing would really resonate well at Yankee Stadium.
Oh, I would say. Yeah. So Pete Alonso, Brian Cashman said that he checked in with his agent Scott Boras on Pete Alonso. No, interesting. I'm
Well,
sure
right,
that it's. I'm sure that it's in. I just can't imagine that they're going to sign Soto plus Pete Alonso. It's not going to happen. I just don't see it.
Now the question would be to shift it. I know we've been trying to focus on the infield today. Get to the outfield on Friday, but everything goes around freaking Soto. But if Soto doesn't sign, if you're waiting until February, to get Soto, how many people can you see come off the list while you're still waiting? It's you have to. There are other priorities. Soto's number one priority, but there are other needs that really need to be addressed at the same time. You can't just sit around and wait. This is why the Yankees fall into the same bullshit they do every offseason when they're sitting around. Just we're watching everybody come off the board. The same thing with the trade deadline. Everybody comes off the board because they're waiting on one guy, one decision, and everybody else goes past them. They can't wait forever anymore. The infield and the defense having players out of position all over the place. The Yankees have a lot of work to do. They can't just keep sitting idle waiting for the one big superstar to make their move.
Well, you know what we haven't done over the last 50 minutes? We haven't said hello to the chat. What are we doing here? Let's say hello to our chat, because these guys have been loyal with us. So let's say hello. So the first thing you guys have got to do, right? And it's pretty much mandatory at this point. You got to go over and hit that like button. Hit that like button for us. It's pretty much now mandatory. Everyone that comes in the chat, you got to hit the like button for us, because it does wonderful things for our channel, and it gets it out there so that more people can watch and join the family. So hit that like button, hit that sub button for people who haven't already done so. And let's go and say hello to the chat. We got plenty of people in the chat. We got Jonathan. We got the usual suspects. We got O1. We got Ken. Salute to Ken. We got CT Cards. How's CT Cards doing? How you doing, my brother? We got Stevie B. What up? What up? What up? We got Joe Coelho. Great to see you in the chat. Medina, great to see you in the chat. Chris Ryan was here earlier. Great to see Chris Ryan again, back on his feet. We got Brad from the land down under. Salute to you, Brad. I hope you're doing well, man. John the Beagle Dad, he was talking about how we need fundamentally sound players. This is a great point. Where are the scouts finding the right players? By the time they get to the minors, they should have some idea of how to play the position. Dude, I mean, preach. The Yankees scouts, the big league scouts, are so fundamentally flawed. Got Damien Serrano. We got NFE. What up? What up? What up? We have got, what have we got here? We got FJ in the house. We got Frederick in the house. And as I say, all the usual stuff. So we got Regil the Great. What's Regil the Great got to say? He says, cannot let Soto walk. End of story. Hal, don't be dumb. Come way over the 650 mil over 12 years. Let's go. 54 million per year. That's going to be what we're looking at. But I think it's baseline. I think it could even touch 60 mil per year. I wouldn't be surprised with Juan Soto. And this is a generational free agent prospect. John the Beagle Dad's asking if we go pitching over Juan Soto. We can't have anything over Juan Soto. Juan Soto should be first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh on our list. Mark Gates, if Soto doesn't sign, can we trade Spencer Jones and a few prospects for Vladdy and sign Santander and Sasaki? Let's circle back to that. Evan, my guy, how you doing, Evan Spitzberg? We need a real leadoff hitter. I agree with that. I wonder what the Yankees do at leadoff. And we've got Donald Trump in the house. Fresh off his victory, he's saying, make Soto great again. Salute to you. Let's circle back to the original comment. What would you do that? Would you go with that option of maybe going with a Santander? What about Santana as a cheap option? I don't think Santana, but Santander. Would you consider Santander?
No, I would stay away from Santander. He's got good power numbers. He's an but he's a high strikeout guy.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a high on base percentage. So I'm putting him towards the. I don't want to take him off the list. I don't think that's fair to do that. But he's not on top of the list of fixes for this team.
I mean, he's a great power bat. I mean, if you look at his power bat, it's crazy. Like 44 home runs, 102 RBIs.
And his defense. His defense is suspect.
But his defense is bad. If you guys think that Soto's bad in right field, you ain't seen Anthony Santander try and play right field. His power numbers are really good, but if you look at the amount of strikeouts, and you're right, his on base isn't good either. His career on base is only 300. Yeah, so that's not going to do it for me. I don't think.
No, you need players that are going to create traffic.
Right. The 44 homers, 102 ribs are very nice.
Yep.
The 800 OPS, very nice. 500 slug, very, very nice. But the 129 strikeouts, that's kind of high. But his on base is not good, and he doesn't bat for average, only 230. He is not remotely what's going to replace a Juan Soto. You don't you can't really replace a Juan Soto with the Santander. I think it's a step back. So I would say no to that, but I love the guy. He's excellent.
There was one more player I wanted to get into before we sign off for the day, and that was the whole thing with Cole.
Yeah.
I know you popped in on you did a stream the other day talking about it. I want to put my 2 cents into that because we'll probably be getting into the pitching next week, and I don't want it to be a dead issue at that point. My question is, like, they were able to get him back on the same deal. Is this a situation, because of course it's all hypothetical at this point of how everything's going behind the scenes. Are they saying, all right, we're gonna take this offer for what we were already offering? Let's give you a physical before we give you that extra year. Or are they, the other scenario is they're just gonna ride out the rest of the years without having to give him the extra to stay. Which do you think is a more likely scenario?
It's interesting that he opted out, but then after speaking with Brian Cashman, opted back in.
Yeah.
Razil is asking if they're going to renegotiate his contract. I think that would be the smart thing to do, but as of what Andy Martino said, and I wouldn't take his word as gospel, but he said that there hasn't been any talks of extending, according to Brian Cashman. But Brian Cashman could be bluffing. We don't know. It's good news for both sides. The fact that he opted back into the original deal, that means that the Yankees are getting him without having to pick up that $39 million option. So that it saved a few extra mil to put into a Juan Soto. Maybe that's what the conversation was. There's a possibility that could very well be the conversation that was had. Was like, listen, if we pick up your option, we can't then go for a Juan Soto. So
you wouldn't have to worry about that money for another 5 years, though. He would still be making 36 million this year anyway.
I'm not sure what the reasoning would have been.
Yeah, I just think it was an agreement of a mutual respect for each other.
Well, I know for a fact that he just did not want to leave. He did not want to leave, and that's very important, very, very important. But Ruben Sierra had an interesting tweet. The ex-Yankee, he's on Twitter now. He says Cole being on board with this quote-unquote ongoing negotiation, plus the Yankees not extending a qualifier and offer to Gleyber Torres, means the Yankees have something big in the works. That comes from Ruben Sierra. So I wonder what that something big in the works means. Would that mean Juan Soto?
There's something's going on with this whole thing with Cole. There's, and I think, Razil's onto it too. With this comp, there it is. Cash had to say something to reassure him about something. Has anyone opted out then back in so fast?
No, I've never seen him.
No, but there's definitely. Yeah, I know we've heard that song before, FJ, but this is Cole. This isn't. He's already here. It's not like we're getting gaslit for somebody that's they're just going to move on from.
Talking about gaslit, we heard Brian Cashman do some heavy gaslighting.
What else is new? What else is new?
But we'll bring that up in a future podcast. But wow, he was on fire.
That's as much of a guarantee as the sun rising every day.
Oh my God, he was on fire. Nothing's going to change with this Yankee organization. Nothing.
No. But what comment from him really stood out?
I think we'll bring it up in a future podcast. There's no
All
point
right.
bringing it up in the
Fair
last
enough.
hour. But he obviously talked about Aaron Boone, and he obviously talked about our base running, which by every conceivable metric is a disgrace. And he said it's one of the best ever. So he's a gaslighter. But one thing he is, right? Although I take massive issue with the way he runs the organization, as the GM, he tends to be pretty stealth, right? So I would not be surprised at all that he's working diligently round the clock to try and get something big done. I mean, he got us Juan Soto last year for an amazing trade. That was a great trade. So, I mean, I don't want to spend the whole time just hating on the guy because that guy comes up with some fantastic moves. Some of the stealthiest, badass moves he can do. Jazz Chisholm's a really good pickup, by the way. So, he has it in his locker. It's just all the other stuff that comes with it.
Well, see, and that's the tricky part with him is he's done a lot of good things, for us in his tenure, and it's been a long tenure. There are needs. When there's a need, he'll address the need, but he's not always successful in it. Like sometimes just those plays just don't work out.
Yeah.
We were screaming for Gallo. There were a lot of fans that were like, he's the guy to get. He's the guy to get. And when he got here, he had a little bit of a spark, and then he's completely imploded. And we blamed it all on Cashman. You're the one that brought him here. Well, we're the ones that asked for him.
Well, I didn't ask for him.
No, I'm saying we as the fans. There were a lot of fans that wanted him, thought Gallo would be a good move.
I mean, for me, I think if you really paid attention to Joey Gallo, you would have known that he was going to be a failure. I knew he would stink. But that's why you guys need to check in on the Pinstripe Chronicles because we know our shit. So all watching we'll pick it. We'll point you in the right direction.
Yeah.
And for
exactly, Ruzio. Judge would be a giant if it wasn't for Cashman. Actually, that was more Hal.
No, that's Hal.
Yeah, Hal had to step in and be like, "Yo, knock it off."
Cashman didn't want to put the boat out for Aaron Judge. And it'd be interesting to see what reasons behind that are. Whether it's like ego because Aaron Judge kind of stood up to him, or whether he just didn't see the long-term viability on Aaron Judge. It'd be interesting. Maybe when he writes an autobiography, he'll tell us his real thoughts on.
Do we really want to know, though?
I'm interested.
Yeah.
I'm definitely interested because there's some things. Some of these deals are wild, so it would be interesting. But anyway.
One thing I do know is, throughout this whole offseason, there are going to be days where we're like, oh, Cashman, he got the job done. Way to go. Pat on the back, and then there's definitely going to be days where we're going, why is he still here? Get rid of him. He's the worst. He's a bottom 5 GM, as they say. So,
question
ups and downs in the offseason.
Question. Do you trust Brian Cashman or Aaron Boone? Who would you trust more between Aaron Boone and Brian Cashman?
Oh, that's tough. Just for what's going on, D-Rod? I see you sneaking in there.
What up?
Jonathan
says neither.
No, I don't. I want to say. All right, I'll tell you.
I've stumped him. Everybody.
You stumped me. You really did. Because I want to say Cashman because he's always on the phone. He's always looking to improve this team. He doesn't have the best success rate, but it's not for a lack of effort. You can also, and this is such a political answer. Yeah, I'm serious. You could also say Boone, because when he's allowed to manage by himself, we've seen the result. When he puts the book away, Boone is actually a very competent manager. And then he lets the analytics get in the way of him. But if I had to answer one way or the other, I would say I would trust Cashman.
That's 2028.
You never know, Rosio. You never know.
Uncle Tad's presidential campaign. That would be
No,
interesting.
no. Let me get the commissioner's job first. Then we'll make our way up to the.
I think I agree with you. I trust Brian Cashman more than I trust Aaron Boone,
Yes.
because the truth is, Brian Cashman is a very smart man. He's a very competent man. He just has some incredible scumbag qualities, but you kind of need that as a GM. You
Yeah.
know, like how many? You don't want a nice guy. You don't want a nice guy GM. You want a bit of an asshole, and Brian Cashman is that. So I trust him more because he's got it in his locker where he can bring in a Juan Soto.
Yep. And he's not afraid to talk to the press. Like he
And
doesn't
he's
cover
pretty
away
open
from
with
it.
the
He's
press,
pretty transparent.
and he tends to know what he's doing. And I quite like what he's done with the international markets. And I think he's been pretty competent with rebuilding our farm system. So I don't want to paint it as if I'm like a massive Cashman fan, but
No.
I think he's better than a lot of people make him out to be.
I mean, you're putting him up against Bone. There's not, we're not raising the
Right.
bar.
I mean, if you just compare, I trust Cashman more than I trust Aaron Boone, because I genuinely believe that Aaron Boone is a terrible leader, and I've always said it. I mean, I would always take an asshole over a nice guy, always. And when you're in charge of an organization, I want an asshole over a nice guy. That's just it. Because Aaron Boone is a nice man. He's someone you want to go hang out, talk ball with, go for a coffee with, go for a beer with, watch the game. Absolutely. But do I want to be led by that guy? No. So that's really it, because I really think that Aaron Boone's lack of leadership has cost us multiple times. And not just leadership, lack of focus on the details. He doesn't focus on details. He's not that type of guy.
Yeah. That is going to wrap it up and close it out for us. We do appreciate everybody that was in the chat.
That is possible, Richie. That could very well be the case. Give me a star for that.
Well,
Jacob's jumped in the chat. Salute, Jacob.
Jersey. What's going on?
We've now got all the usual suspects in the chat. Thank you.
Yep. Petruzzi found his way home. It's always good to see. But that is going to wrap things up, D-Rock. Yeah. I don't know about that, D-Rock. I think the jury's still out on how it'll end with Jazz. It's all going to depend on where they put him in position for the next year.
We love you too, Reginald.
Yep. So he wasn't I thought he was going to have a much better postseason, so he kind of let me down on that. So I want to be a little overcritical, but when it comes to the defense, it's hard to hate on a guy that played the way he did for never playing it before, especially in the high intensity of a postseason. So I'm still, I don't want to close the book on if Jazz was a good move or not. But like we were saying, that is going to wrap things up for us today. We will be back on Friday. Well, we will be getting into a deep dive into the outfield and how that could all play out with the free agents and obviously internally with the likes of Dominguez and Spencer Jones. What are the features of guys like Pereira? That will be discussed on Friday. So just remember to hit that like button, hit that sub button, share this out with your friends, family, the strangers on the corner. It's been a Pitch Like Chronicles. This is where fans become family. So wear those pinstripes of pride and play on.